Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something that's been making waves in the aviation world. And if you've flown United Airlines recently, you might have already noticed some of these issues firsthand. So here's the situation. United Airlines, one of the largest carriers in the United States and a major player in global aviation, is currently navigating through what industry insiders are calling a perfect storm. And I'm not talking about bad weather. I'm talking about a combination of challenges that are hitting this airline from multiple directions all at once. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's going on behind the scenes at United, why it matters to anyone who flies, and what the future might hold for this aviation giant. Whether you're an aviation enthusiast, a frequent traveler, or just curious about how airlines work, this story affects all of us. First, let's talk about what United looks like from the outside. If you glanced at United's headlines over the past few years, you'd probably think everything was going great. They've been reporting strong revenue numbers, announcing ambitious expansion plans, and making huge aircraft orders that would make any aviation fan excited. We're talking about hundreds of new planes, Airbus A321neos, Boeing 787 Dreamliners, and more. United has been positioning itself as the American airline for international travel, with more long-haul routes connecting the United States to destinations around the world than most of their competitors. Sounds pretty successful, right? Well, here's where things get complicated. Behind all that growth and all those exciting announcements, there's a fundamental problem that's been building for years. United expanded too quickly. And when I say too quickly, I mean they grew their operations faster than they could properly support them. Think of it like this. Imagine you're building a tower with blocks. If you build it too fast without making sure each layer is stable, eventually something's going to wobble and then the whole thing might come crashing down. That's essentially what's been happening at United. They expanded faster than they could train new crew members, faster than they could hire enough maintenance technicians, and critically faster than aircraft manufacturers could actually build and deliver the planes they ordered. Some people in the aviation industry started calling United's approach growth by optimism. Basically, they were being really optimistic that everything would work out, that the planes would arrive on time, that they'd be able to hire and train everyone they needed, and that all their systems could handle the increased workload. But as we're seeing now, optimism alone doesn't solve real operational problems. And one by one, these issues started to surface. Now let's talk about one of the biggest factors in United's current situation, their relationship with Boeing. Here's something you need to understand about United Airlines. They are extremely dependent on Boeing aircrafts. More than most other major airlines in the United States, United's fleet is built around Boeing planes. And in 2024 and 2025, Boeing has been going through some serious manufacturing and certification challenges. You might have heard about some of these issues in the news: factory inspections that revealed quality problems, delayed aircraft deliveries, planes being grounded for inspections, and certification processes taking much longer than expected. For United, this has been particularly painful because they ordered over 150 Boeing 737 MAX 10 aircrafts. These planes were supposed to be game changers for United's domestic and medium-range international operations. They're fuel-efficient, modern, and were meant to replace older aircrafts that cost more to operate. The problem? The MAX 10 still hasn't been certified to fly passengers. And these delays keep getting worse with no clear timeline for when these aircrafts will actually be delivered. Let me explain why this is such a big deal. When an airline orders new aircrafts, they build their entire future plans around when those planes are supposed to arrive. They plan which old planes they'll retire, which routes they'll expand, how many pilots and flight attendants they'll need to train, and how much money they'll save on fuel costs. Now imagine all of that planning being thrown out the window because the planes you were counting on simply aren't coming. That's United's reality right now. This created what we call a domino effect. First, United couldn't retire their older aircrafts as planned. These older planes are less fuel efficient and require more maintenance, so they cost more to operate. Second, their fuel costs increased because they're stuck flying older, less efficient planes instead of the modern ones they ordered. Third, their maintenance costs exploded because older aircrafts need more frequent and more extensive maintenance work. Fourth, Their scheduling became incredibly complicated because they didn't have the aircrafts they were expecting, so they had to juggle their fleet around to cover all their routes. And fifth, their long-term growth plans essentially fell apart because they couldn't expand to new destinations without the additional aircraft's capacity. United's CEO even made a public statement, which is pretty rare for such a direct comment, essentially saying that United can't rely on Boeing the way they used to. When an airline publicly admits that about one of their main aircraft suppliers, the situation is serious. But delayed aircraft deliveries are only part of the story. United is also facing a major staffing challenge, what I call the people problem. Running an airline as large and complex as United requires an enormous number of people. We're talking about tens of thousands of flight attendants to staff all those flights, thousands of pilots who need extensive training and certification, massive ground staff teams at airports across the country and around the world, maintenance technicians to keep the aircraft safe and airworthy, training departments to prepare new employees, dispatchers and operations teams to coordinate everything. Here's United's problem: they're struggling to get enough qualified people in all these positions to support their operations. Now, this isn't because people don't want to work for United. It's because United's rapid growth exceeded their ability to train and onboard new employees fast enough. Let me give you an example with pilots. Becoming a commercial airline pilot takes years. You need to accumulate thousands of flight hours, get multiple certifications, and then go through extensive airline-specific training. You can't just decide to double your pilot workforce overnight. It takes years to build that pipeline. Meanwhile, experienced pilots are retiring and United needs to replace them while also adding new pilots for their expansion plans. Their training centers are running at maximum capacity, trying to keep up with demand. The same thing is happening with flight attendants, maintenance technicians, and other critical positions. When you don't have enough staff, several things happen. Flights get delayed because crews aren't available or they've exceeded their legal working hours. Flights get cancelled when there's simply no crew available to operate them. The existing workforce gets stretched thin, working longer hours and dealing with more pressure. Aircraft sit on the ground longer between flights because there aren't enough ground staff to turn them around quickly. In 2025, United has had multiple occasions where entire hubs, major airports where United has a big presence, experience what the industry calls meltdown mode. Basically, the operation breaks down because there aren't enough people to keep everything running smoothly. That's not a good sign for any airline. Now let's talk about something that might not be obvious to passengers, but is absolutely critical to airline operations: aircraft maintenance. When an airline grows rapidly, the first department to feel the strain is usually maintenance. And right now, United is dealing with one of the largest maintenance backlogs in its modern history. Why is this happening? There are three main reasons. First, United still operates a significant number of older aircrafts. We're talking about planes like the Boeing 757, which hasn't been manufactured in almost 20 years, the Boeing 767, older Airbus A319s and A320s, and older versions of the Boeing 737. These older aircraft require much more maintenance than modern planes, sometimes even twice as much. They have older systems that need more frequent inspections and repairs, and parts can be harder to find because they're no longer in production. Second, remember those delayed Boeing MAX 10s we talked about? Since those new planes aren't arriving, United has no choice but to keep flying these older aircrafts much longer than they originally planned. This means even more maintenance work on planes that were supposed to be retired. Third, there's a nationwide shortage of aviation maintenance technicians. Becoming an aircraft mechanic requires specialized training and certification, and there simply aren't enough qualified technicians to meet the industry's needs right now. United is competing with every other airline for this limited pool of skilled workers. The result of all this? You've got aircraft sitting in hangars waiting for repairs, longer turnaround times between flights, more delays, more cancellations, and significantly higher costs. Some industry sources have even suggested that United's maintenance facilities are operating at over 120% of their designed capacity, which is obviously unsustainable in the long term. United's problems aren't happening in a vacuum. The entire airline industry is facing some major challenges right now, but United is being hit particularly hard because of the type of operation they run. Let's talk about what's affecting airlines globally. fuel prices have been volatile and generally trending higher, which is a huge deal because fuel is typically an airline's biggest expense. There's a worldwide shortage of new aircrafts because manufacturers can't build them fast enough to meet demand. Airports around the world are increasing their fees, the charges they levy on airlines for using their facilities. Governments are imposing new regulations and environmental taxes on aviation. Labor costs are rising as employees across the industry negotiate for better pay and working conditions. Now, why is United particularly vulnerable to these industry-wide problems? First, United operates a lot of long-haul international routes, flights that cover thousands of miles across oceans. These flights burn massive amounts of fuel, so when fuel prices go up, United feels it more than an airline that focuses mainly on shorter domestic flights. Second, United relies heavily on major international airports, places like London Heathrow, Frankfurt, Tokyo Narita, and Sydney. These airports tend to have the highest fees in the world, and when they increase those fees, United's costs go up significantly. Third, many of United's wide-body aircrafts, the big planes used for international flights, are older models that burn more fuel than modern alternatives. Their older Boeing 777s and 767s are much less efficient than newer aircrafts would be. And fourth, United's competitors have some advantages here. Delta has been successfully introducing ultra-modern Airbus A321neos. Southwest operates an incredibly simple fleet of just one aircraft type, which keeps their costs down. JetBlue has newer, more efficient planes like the A220 and A321LR. Meanwhile, United is stuck waiting for new aircrafts that aren't arriving on schedule. Let's talk about money, because ultimately, that's what makes or breaks an airline. Here's something important to understand about airlines. They operate on extremely thin profit margins. Most successful airlines make only a few dollars of profit per passenger. Sometimes it's even less than that. So when costs go up by even a small amount per passenger, it can turn a profitable route into an unprofitable one. United's big problem right now is that their costs are rising faster than their revenue, faster than the money they're bringing in. Here's what's driving their costs up. Higher fuel expenses, higher labor costs as employees negotiate better contracts, higher airport fees worldwide, higher maintenance costs from operating older aircrafts longer, higher training costs from trying to expand their workforce, higher aircraft leasing costs, more debt from all the aircraft they've ordered. Meanwhile, their ability to increase revenue is limited. Domestic ticket prices can only go so high before passengers choose other airlines or other forms of transportation. Low-cost carriers like Spirit and Frontier keep basic economy prices low, which puts pressure on United's pricing. Passengers today are more price-sensitive than ever, comparing fares across multiple airlines before booking. This puts United in a really tough spot. They basically have three options and none of them are great. Option 1, raise ticket prices to cover higher costs. The risk here is losing customers to competitors offering lower fares. Option 2, cut routes and reduce capacity. The risk here is losing market share and giving competitors an opportunity to take over those markets. Option 3, keep operating at higher costs and accept lower profits. The risk here is that the company becomes financially weaker over time. United is essentially trying to balance all three approaches, which is incredibly difficult, or weaker. So after everything we've talked about, you're probably wondering, what does all of this mean for me if I'm flying United? Here's what passengers can realistically expect over the next couple of years. First, expect more delays and cancellations. When an airline is dealing with staff shortages and maintenance backlogs, the operation just isn't as reliable. Things that might have been minor issues before can now cause significant disruptions. Second, expect higher ticket prices. United has to pay for increased fuel costs, maintenance expenses, and staff wages. Those costs ultimately get passed on to passengers. Third, expect to fly on older aircrafts more often. You might find yourself on a Boeing 757 or 767 when you are hoping for a newer, more modern plane with better seats and entertainment systems. Fourth, expect slower route expansion. United will likely freeze or reduce some of their planned new international routes because they don't have the aircraft's capacity they were counting on. Fifth, expect less flexibility when things go wrong. Airlines usually keep some spare aircrafts available for when planes have mechanical issues or other problems. But when your fleet is stretched thin, there's no backup plane available, which means longer delays or cancelled flights. And sixth, expect a more cautious United overall. After years of aggressive growth and expansion, United is being forced to slow down and focus on stabilizing their existing operation. Now here's the big question: can United actually recover from this perfect storm of challenges? The answer is yes, but only if they make some major changes. First, they need to diversify their aircraft suppliers. United needs to rely less on Boeing and more on Airbus for their future fleet. Second, they need to fix their training bottleneck. United must invest heavily in expanding their training capacity. More flight simulators, more training centers, more instructors. They need to be able to train pilots, flight attendants, and maintenance technicians much faster than they currently can. Third, they need to strengthen their maintenance capacity. This means building or expanding maintenance hangars, hiring more technicians, even if they have to pay premium wages to attract them, and developing more internal capability to handle their maintenance needs. Fourth, they need to slow down their growth. Instead of trying to expand into every possible market, United needs to focus on stability. Make sure their existing operation runs smoothly before adding more complexity. And fifth, they need smarter route planning. Rather than launching new routes everywhere, they should focus on the most profitable ones. The routes where they have competitive advantages and where demand is strongest. If United can successfully implement these changes, they could emerge from this crisis as a stronger, more resilient airline. If they can't, or if they're too slow to adapt, this crisis could reshape their entire future in the industry. So let's wrap this all up. United Airlines has survived bankruptcy, economic recessions, and multiple industry crises before. They're a large, powerful company with strong brand recognition and an extensive global network. They're not going anywhere, but what they're facing right now is different from past challenges. This isn't just one problem they need to solve, it's multiple serious problems hitting them all at the same time. Aircraft delays from Boeing, staff shortages across multiple departments, rising fuel and operating costs, maintenance backlogs, financial pressure, over-reliance on a single aircraft manufacturer, an aging fleet they can't replace on schedule, a workforce stretched to its limits. It really is a perfect storm. And for the first time in many years, United is being forced to slow down, rethink their strategy, and rebuild their operation from the inside out. Passengers will definitely notice the effects. Through delays, cancellations, higher fares, and changes to route networks, competitors will try to take advantage of United's struggles to grab market share, and the entire aviation industry will be watching closely to see how United handles this situation. Because if United, one of the biggest airlines in America, can't get this under control, it could have ripple effects across the entire aviation world. The next couple of years will be absolutely critical for United Airlines. The decisions they make now will determine what kind of airline they become over the next decade. If you found this video helpful and want more content about the business side of aviation, the aircraft we fly on, and the stories behind the airlines, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.